Here we go. Well, that was strange. But anyway, hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to this celebratory video. And the Blue Jays are going to the World Series. It is unfreaking believable. As the Toronto Blue Jays are on their way to the 2020 World Series, it is going to be one heck of a World Series. For those of you who, of course, are hangers on and all that, the only way you could kind of chat is to subscribe and all that. Now, I know a lot of people are saying that why are you doing this? Because like you should talking all that. But it's just that I don't want people popping in and just basically giving profanities and all that type of stuff that people are like getting on people's nerves and all that. So yeah, I just don't want trouble and all that. I mean, I'm still debating whether to just open it up to the floor, but then again, I'll have to keep watching for every comment and make sure that I don't do anything stupid because obviously I don't want to get copyright strike and the end of the channel because I've just hit 10,000 videos. So anyway, welcome those of you watching and all that. Now, of course, you can actually watch without having to comment. I just turn on the subscriber to send the messages and all that, but you know, it's going to probably be a 35-minute stream because of the fact that, you know, I don't want to overshare things and everything else in this whole grand scheme of things. So yeah, the 2025 World Series. So this is Wikipedia stuff. The 2025 World Series is the championship series of MLB's 2025 season. Though this is the 121st edition, and it will be the AL champion Toronto Blue Jays and the LA Dodgers, who are the National League champions. This is the Dodgers' 23rd trip to the Fall Classic. They have as many, well, I guess, here's the thing, the most by a franchise in the National League, 23 trips. They're trying to become the first team since 2000 to win back-to-back championships. That would be the Yankees. What is weird is this is the first time since 2009 that a World Series has had a defending champion play in it. Because every time the defending champion plays after 2009, well, up to this year, they have never made it back to the World Series. There have been a couple of chances, but no. Anyway, the Blue Jays, this is their third trip to the World Series, first in 32 years following their victory in 1993, when I was just a youngin', when I was just only 8 years old. And the Blue Jays are trying to go 3-0 in the World Series. That would be not an all-time record. Well, Boston won their first 5 trips to the World Series. But the fact is that the Blue Jays are trying to go 3-0 and claim first place for the most wins in the World Series final without losing one. They share that with the Florida Marlins, but now if the Blue Jays win, they'll be number one. If not, the Marlins have that record. The Dodgers actually were a 3 seed and won the NL West, but because they lost more than Milwaukee and Philly, who won the Central and the East respectively, that meant that they had to start in the wild card round and all that. They actually had their worst 54-game stretch under Dave Roberts, who was the manager. Of course, 21 years ago, we all know about Dave Roberts and his stolen base that got the Red Sox to take care of the Yankees in the ALCS. The Blue Jays were number one in the AL East, and thanks to a key win in Los Angeles in August in a 3-game series, even though the Jays lost the other 2, the Blue Jays have home field for this World Series and all that. Toronto really had a significant improvement. They only won 74 games last year. Now they're at 94 and they won the championship. Fox will broadcast it. This will be the first time Fox will broadcast a Blue Jays World Series because the last time the World Series was on was when CBS basically overpaid for it allegedly, and they just wanted to get out of it. By 1994, they were out of it. But yeah, and because of a postseason rule in MLB sports in 2022, Sportsnet, Rogers Sportsnet, that is, will be actually broadcasting the game for Canada in English and all that. Fox would be the U.S. English stuff. Of course, prior to 2022, the World Series would have been held, and Sportsnet would have had to deal with the Fox feed or basically the MLB International feed. But because of the new rules, Sportsnet can do the game in English. So obviously, we would have Dan Shulman, Buck Martinez, and Hazel May doing the Sportsnet stuff with Joe Davis, John Smoltz, and Ken Rosenthal doing it. Well, and Tom Fiducci doing it for Fox. John Boog Scomby, Jessica Mendoza, Eduardo Perez, and Buster Olney will be doing the stuff for ESPN Radio. Ben Shulman and Chris LaRue for CJCL Radio in Toronto. Stephen Nelson and Rick Monday for LA Radio and all that. So anyway, this is actually the 9th consecutive World Series that a California or a Texas team have been to the big dance and all that. In fact, the Dodgers have played both Montreal and Toronto in the postseason and all that. They joined Philly as the only teams to do so because Philly faced Montreal in the 1981, what they call the NLDS, if you will. And, of course, they faced the Blue Jays in the 93 World Series. And the Dodgers beat the Expos 1981 Blue Monday. Yeah, so this is the first time that Toronto and Los Angeles will meet for the World Series. This is not the first time Toronto and LA have met in sports. I mean, the Raptors in NBA can't meet an LA team till the NBA Finals because, the Lakers and Clippers play in the other conference. For football, well, Toronto doesn't have a football team, NFL team. So it's up to hockey, of course. And Toronto and LA have met each other in hockey, I think, the 3 different times. I have to take a look at the results because, Toronto playing LA, I think that's been 3 times. They had to face each other 3 times. Yep. They have played 3 times. Toronto beat LA in the 1975 first round of the playoffs, NHL playoffs, to move on to face Philly, I think it was. And then in 1978, the Leafs beat the Kings in the preliminary round in 2 games, and everyone thought LA was going to win. But Toronto took care of LA in a sweep, and then that was when they got catapulted to the quarters against the Islanders, beat those guys, and then lost to Montreal in the semifinals. And, of course, in 1993, the series that all Maple Leaf fans would like to forget is when the Kings beat the Leafs in the 93 Stanley Cup playoffs. Game 1 was marked by Martin McSorley's cheap hit on Doug Gilmour, which saw Wendell Clark try to defend his teammate. Game 5, Glenn Anderson's overtime goal, putting the Leafs up 3-2. But then all of a freaking sudden, the Kings won Game 6 thanks to to Kerry Frazier's missed call of a Wayne Gretzky high stick, which should have been at least 2 minutes in length. But it wasn't because they said it was a follow-through. Gretzky would score the winning goal in Game 6, and then in Game 7, they would win the series. Of course, Gretzky's hat trick. So let's take a look at the 2 teams and all that. Let's look at the LA Dodgers because, we're going to look at the Expos first. Well, yeah. So anyway, the Dodgers solidified their championship roster from 2024 by adding Blake Snell, Tanner Scott, and actually got Roki Sasaki's rights from Japan. They also re-signed Teoscar Hernandez and Blake Trinan. So basically, the Dodgers had a few guys losing, but anyway, they lost a few guys, but they were heavy favorites to repeat. They actually started at 8-0. It actually was the first time a defending World Series champion had been 8-0 or better to start their campaign, like an undefeated streak. The 1933 Yankees had their mark at 7-0. The Dodgers were 56-32 with a 9-game lead in the NL West. However, between the 4th of July and September 6th, the Dodgers were 22-32 Dave Roberts had been team manager since 2016, but this was a terrible stretch. An unreliable bullpen. And then when they lost to Baltimore on September 6th, Yamamoto did not allow a hit for 8 2/3 innings, but then the bullpen could not get the final out and blew the 3-0 lead. However, they would rebound, putting up 93 wins and winning the NL West for the 4th straight season and the 12th time in the last 13 years. The only mistake was 2021. Since 2013, they've won the title NL West every year except for 2021, as I said. They were the 3rd best division winner by record, so they had to go to the wild card game. And then the Reds came to town. The Reds with that big comeback to nip the Mets at the line, but the Dodgers beat the Reds in 2 straight. Then the Dodgers took care of the Phillies in 4 games, 3 games to 1 in the NLDS. The Phillies almost had no chance. And of course, that whole errant throw by Orion Kirkary. I don't blame the guy at all. I mean, he saw the runner break towards home, so you're going to try to throw home instead of throwing the first for the 3rd out. In the NLCS, the Dodgers crushed the Brewers in the fine powder 4 straight. They only allowed 4 runs. And the last time they swept a team in a best of 7 series was the World Series 1963 against the New York Yankees. The Dodgers team's strength was their starting pitchers, unlike the previous year's team that was reliant on relief pitching. So anyway, they signed Blake Snell. Tyler Glasnow had a good second half. Yoshi Yamamoto played a full season. And Shohei Ohtani was cleared to pitch. He could hit, but he was cleared because of Tommy John to pitch and all that. And then, they have not given up more than 3 earned runs in any of their postseason games. And the starting rotation has been pitched into the 6th inning in every start but 1. Ohtani was the NLCS MVP because of his efforts, especially in Game 4 when he hit 3 home runs as a batter. He pitched 6 innings and struck out 10 and didn't give up a run. They're on a roll. They've won 24 of the last 30 games, or in layman's terms, 4 out of every 5, or 80%. So the Dodgers, this is their 23rd appearance, the most by a National League team. They're 5th in the last 9 seasons. And they're the first reigning World Series champ to reach the series since the 2009 Phillies, who were trying to repeat, but the Yankees beat them with Hideki Matsui. They're trying to become the first repeat champ since the 2000 Yankees, and the first National League team to repeat since the Big Red Machine of 75 and 76. Anyway, the Dodgers are looking for championship number 9. Of course, we don't know who the starting pitchers and everything are. The games will start at 8 Eastern time all 7 days. Of course, it'll be Friday. Game 1's Friday, Game 2 Saturday, and then travel day, and then next Monday, next Tuesday, next Wednesday in Los Angeles, and then travel day to come back to Toronto for Game 6 necessary next Friday on Halloween, and next Saturday at November the 1st. So Fox will broadcast the World Series for the 26th straight year. The last time a non-Fox World Series happened was 99 when NBC did that. Joe Davis will be calling the action play-by-play with John Smoltz, the color analyst, and Ken Roosevelt, Tom Ferrucci as field reporters. Kevin Burkhardt and Matt Vasgersian will host the pregame and postgame shows, joined by Derek Jeter, A-Rod, and David Ortiz. Man, 3 great legends and all that. Yeah, Matt Vasgersian. I thought Vasgersian was not allowed to be on near Fox anymore. Guess not. But anyway, yeah, I love Vasgersian. But yeah, Joe Davis. But the problem is Joe Davis actually also calls the Dodgers games for Sportsnet LA during the regular season. So that's a little bit awkward. I know that Vin Scully had the perplexity because he would call the games for the Dodgers, and then in the World Series, what are you going to do? So yeah, so Sportsnet will be permitted to produce his own separate telecast to Canadian viewers. Because, the MLB's international postseason feed would have to be aired in Canada. Because that would, Dan Schulman will go play-by-play with Buck Martinez as color analyst and Hazel May as fielder reporter. This will be the first ever English-language Canadian-produced telecast of a World Series in baseball history. So anyway, ESPN Radio will be doing it in the United States. Boog Sciambi will be doing play-by-play with Jessica Mendoza being the color analyst and Eduardo Perez, son of Tony Perez, Barcelona reporting on the field. Sportsnet Radio, aka CJCL Toronto, will broadcast in Canada with Ben Schulman and Chris LaRue as analysts. But you'd be thinking to yourself, hang on, you didn't even talk about the Toronto Blue Jays of 2025. You're talking about the Dodgers. Why aren't you talking about the Blue Jays? Well, that's simple. So anyway, the fact is I am wearing the pale blue Toronto Blue Jays shirt today due to the fact that, it's the Blue Jays have the Blue Jays and all that. So anyway, I've got a bit lined up for the stuff. You see, yeah, and all that. But anyway, let's talk about the 2025 Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays opened 2025 looking to improve their dismal 2024 season, which was their first losing season in 5 years. They only won 74 games. In April, rumors were circulating that Guerrero Jr. would be handing to free agency. However, in mid-April, the Blue Jays said, screw it, we're going to give him the bag, a.k.a. give him the money. So they gave him a 14-year, $500 million / $500 million contract. So equally put, that was like more than $30 million a year. As for the team, they did not find success until June 1st, when they actually had an 8-2 start to the month. From June 29th to July 8th, they put up 10 straight wins. Not a team record, but still good enough, including a big Canada Day week sweep against the Yankees at the Rogers Center. The Blue Jays took over the AL East on July the 3rd. Flaherty Jr. was named to the All-Star game. Alejandro Kirk, the catcher, was named as a reserve. The Blue Jays will win 8 out of 9 after the All-Star break. Unfortunately, though, Toronto in September had troubles because Bo Bichette got injured and was out for pretty much September, and then the Yankees had a September surge. The Blue Jays actually nipped the Yankees for the division crown on the final day, beating Tampa. They had to beat Tampa because the Yankees were on that 8-game winning streak to end the year. The Blue Jays and Yankees actually both got 94 wins. However, because the Blue Jays beat the Yankees 8-5 in the regular season, head-to-head, the Blue Jays got the division and all that. They claimed a first-round bye and the top seed in the American League. So the Blue Jays waited and waited and waited and waited. They had to wait for the Yankees versus the Red Sox, of all things, to come through. And guess who won the series? The Yankees. The both Sox had a chance, but botched it. Adding to the drama was that both teams' announcers took pot shots at each team. Michael Kay, the Yankees play-by-play radio announcer, said that the Blue Jays were not a first-place caliber team because of the run differential. But Michael Kay did say he was misunderstood and reached out to Don Mattingly, who is the bench coach, or practically the assistant manager, if you will, to quell the controversy. In September, Buck Martinez made critical comments towards the Yankees, of course, our manager analyst, saying they were not good because of the numerous wild pitches, fielding mistakes, and poor base running. And they had a reliance on home runs, an over-reliance at that. The Blue Jays would win the first 2 games, crushing the Yankees, getting the record for highest run differential in team history in a game, and basically putting the Yankees on notice. However, the Blue Jays choked that 6-1 lead in Game 3, although it was only after 3 innings, so you knew it was going to happen. But the Jays didn't fumble. They won Game 4. Of course, when the Blue Jays won Game 1 against the Yankees, it broke a 9-year drought of playoff wins. The Jays had not won a playoff game since 2016. They've been to many wild cards, but they couldn't even get one win. Of course, that big 8-1 choke against the Mariners in the 2022 wild card series still came to mind. Flaherty would hit the team's first ever postseason Grand Slam in Game 2, and then that did it. And then they took on the Seattle Mariners, their expansion cousins. I talked about this in the stream, like in the comments, that the Blue Jays and the Mariners, this was the first time ever that an ALCS happened with 2 teams that were expansion mates. They both are from 1977. Whereas the National League, it has happened. The Astros and Mets, the class of '62 for expansion teams, met in the '86 NLCS. And in the ALCS, they lost games 1 and 2, and everyone thought that Seattle was going to their first World Series ever, and to make Major League Baseball the first of the 4 big leagues with baseball, well, basketball, football, hockey. I burped. Also there, to have all their teams make at least one final and all that. Well, of course, baseball is a little bit easy because the last time they expanded was 1998. Basketball hasn't expanded since 2005, I like to say, but I'm probably wrong. Football hasn't expanded since 2002, and hockey has expanded a couple of times in the 2020s and all that. But regardless of that, the Mariners were up 2-0. Blue Jays calmly took games 3 and 4 in Seattle. Game 5, it was a tight game. Blue Jays were up 2-1, and then Jeannie Suarez came up with a grand slam in the bottom of the 8th off of Brandon Little, and fans around the world were ticked off at John Schneider for the Brandon Little move. I mean, you had friends who did that. So that's what happened. Of course, that's what ends up happening in everyone's thing. And then, the Blue Jays were down and out as it seemed, pitched game 6, but Trey Yesevich pitched his butt off, and the Blue Jays won game 6 easily. And then game 7 was that epic game 7. The Mariners were up 3-1 in the game, but then George Springer comes up with runners on first and third. Whammo! Over the left center field wall, 4-3, and the Blue Jays didn't hold back. Actually, I found out through Wikipedia that this was the first time in history that a team had a go-ahead home run while trailing by multiple runs in the 7th inning or later, and all that. And also, I also learned from Wiki that the Blue Jays are the first team in LCS history, AL or NL, and this is the history since 1969, to be down 0-2 at home and still win the series. It's never been done before. Vladdy Jr. actually was the ALCS MVP. A lot of people thought George Springer should have been in it, but yeah, he hit 6 home runs. He's hit 6 home runs in the postseason. He's only whiffed 3 times. So anyway, they're trying to do everything else. Anyway, Toronto is hoping to win a championship in one of the big 4 leagues. The last time was 2019 when the Raptors did it. And the Raptors also had what they call a conference final / league championship series collapse. They were down 0-2 to the Bucks, although the Bucks had home court. And then the Raptors won game 3 in double overtime and then never looked back, winning the other 3 games and going to the finals against Golden State. And this is akin with the Dodgers because the Toronto Blue Jays are playing a team that basically is kind of a dynasty. And the Raptors beat the Warriors in their dynasty for at least 1 year. And now they could do it to the Dodgers. So yeah, the 2025 Blue Jays season has just been amazing and all that. They only won 74 games last year, and then they won 94 this year and all that. The White Sox kind of improved. They won 60 wins. I think they had a 20-game thing too. Anyway, the Blue Jays were 7-6 against the Orioles, 8-5 against the Red Sox and Yankees, and 6-7 against the Rays. In the AL Central, they split 6 games with the White Sox, 6 games with Cleveland. They split. They won 4 out of 7 against Detroit. They lost 4 to Kansas City out of 6, and they beat the Twins 4-2. AL West, they lost 4 out of 6 against the Astros. They took care of the Angels 4-2. A's, they were 5-2 against. Seattle was 4-2, and the Rangers were 4-2. In the National League, they swept the San Diego Padres, San Francisco Giants, and Washington Nationals on home turf. and then they swept Colorado and St. Louis in Colorado and St. Louis. They only got swept by the Mets. The Mets swept the Blue Jays. So yeah, so the Blue Jays making some key moves and all that. So the ALCS playoff rosters were pitching Jeff Hoffman, our closer, who's done decently. Uriel Rodriguez, Max Scherzer pitched Game 4 of the ALCS. He's a starter. Kevin Gausman pitched a couple games in the ALCS. He even pitched Game 7. Trey Yesevich, a pair of starts. Chris Bassett was in relief in the 8th inning yesterday. Sir Anthony Dominguez, former Philly. Brandon Little. Eric Lauer was on the roster. Shane Bieber. Braden Fisher, who wasn't doing that well. Yeah, Bieber. Mason Fluharty and Louis Farland. Catchers Alejandro Kirk and Tyler Heineman. Our infielders were Andres Jimenez, Isaiah Kiner Falafla, Ernie Clement, Flatty Jr., and Addison Barger. Outfielders Miles Straw, George Springer, Dalton Varsho, Joey Loberfido coming in for Anthony Santander, David Schneider, and Nathan Lucas. So yeah, transactions and all that. Yeah, they gave up on transactions on the wiki page after 2 months. Kind of pathetic. All right, so that's the whole story with the Blue Jays. I did promise to give you some cards from the 2025 Topps Heritage thing and all that. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. First card is a Diamondback by the name of Adrian Del Castillo, and that RC means he's rookie card. So Adrian Del Castillo, that's his card and all that. Next is a Cleveland card, John Kenzie Noel, Big Christmas. This is his rookie card, apparently. So yeah, John Kenzie Noel is kind of a hero in Cleveland because of his 2-run pinch hit home run to tie the Yankees in game 3 of the ALCS last year, and then the David Fry won it for them. Yeah, Big Christmas as they call it. He played 67 games in the major leagues with 13 home runs, 28 RBIs. It's amazing and all that. So yeah, John Kenzie Noel, Big Christmas. Next is Joe Ryan of the Twins. Joe Ryan. All that. He's been doing decently for the Twins and all that. Yeah, Joe Ryan doing his job. Pitching. Next is Richie Palacios from the Rays. I would say his rookie card. I thought it was his rookie card, but yeah, he's from Cleveland originally. So Richie Palacios right here. Next is an NL All-Star, Jackson Profar for the Padres. Yeah, they really took him for a song from the A's. Yeah, he was with the Rockies. He went from Padres to the Rockies, and then the Padres picked him up. The number 1 prospect. He finally made him an MLB All-Star in his 11th year. Yeah, he's starting to pick up speed as a Padre. Next is Nicky Lopez of the crappy Chicago White Sox of 2024. He played for the Royals and all that. He only had 1 home runs and all that. He only had 1 home run, Nicky Lopez did. All right. So anyway, next is Willy Adames of the Giants. Pretty good player. He was a good player for the Rays, and then he became a Giant. Willy Adames, this is his card right here, right now. So, yeah. Willy Adames doing his job. Next card is a Jung-Hoo Lee Giants card. Chevrolet. He played in Korea, and then he became a Giant 37 games. One of the best in Japan. From Nagoya, Jung-Hoo Lee. He was born in Nagoya. That's weird. Jung-Hoo Lee, that's a Korean name. I guess he was born to Korean parents. Next up is Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers. Kind of like the card with the Los Angeles thing. Will we see Clayton Kershaw in the postseason? I think we will. Obviously, because Kershaw's retiring and, in LA. So I think he's going to get probably game 3 or 4. Anyway, this is his card and all that. Legendary Dodger. Been around since 2008 with the Dodgers. 212 wins as a Dodger. He did have a little bit of an injury bug in 2024. But yeah, he was an iconic player and all that. Can't believe he spent almost 20 years in as a Dodger. And next is Marco Luciano from the Giants. Marco Luciano and all that. And then you got yourself an all-time All-Stars card, Ernie Banks at shortstop. Let's play 2, baby. Ernie Banks played every year with the Cubs from 56 to 71, 2,528 games, 512 home runs, 1,638 RBIs. But yeah, Ernie Banks was an icon. He even played first base at a time. But yeah, Ernie Banks. Good. And the final card is a Ranger, Dustin Harris, rookie card with Dustin Harris. That's what you get. All right, so that's that for the hockey cards part of the program. Why is it telling me to load things? I'm going to hide the update. I think it's going to keep bugging me until I update it. But yeah, I'll have to do a lot of work. But yeah, so that's the 20 cards and all that. 20 card salute. Didn't feel like 20 cards, though. But or I must have counted wrong or something like that. So yeah, we got that going and everything else. So the Blue Jays are making it happen. So got to do a few things. So anyway, it's time. It's time for the Jeff Diamond version of OK Blue Jays. Trying to over-explain things. Okay, here we go, boys and girls. Let's sing along. Obviously, I don't want to get copyright strike, so you'll have to think of the tune in your head. Do, do, do. You've got a diamond. That's me. You've got 9 men. Where are the other 8? You've got a hat, a bat, and that's not all. My bat's a little too heavy to be in the basement. You've got the bleachers. Well, this is the bleachers. Got them from spring till fall. And in the winter, you got a dog. I have a cat. And a drink. Oh, yeah. And an umpire's call. We don't have umpires around Kitchener. What do you want? Let's play ball. Well, we have to wait 3 more days. Is that a fly ball or is it a seagull? Trust me, I saw a lot of seagulls at work this morning coming in from the lake just to catch the game. Obviously from Lake Ontario, because there's no lakes around Kitchener. It's the last inning. Our guys are winning. Well, obviously, Jays throw down a smoker, a strike, and he got no doubt. That's what Jeff Hoffman did. What do you want? Let's play ball. Okay. Blue Jays. Let's play ball. Okay. Blue Jays. Let's play ball. It's a beautiful evening, fans. Well, it's 7:50 in the evening at the ballpark. When the game starts, warm summer breezes, sun's going down. Well, it's October, so the sun goes down at like 6:50 p.m. and warm summer breezes, we're going to get 75 kilometer per hour breezes. It's all dark at the ballpark. Well, yeah, what is Rogers Center going to do? That's okay. It's a night game. Well, of course, all the World Series games have been night games since 1987. Okay. Blue Jays, let's play a ball. Okay. Blue Jays, let's play ball. Bring on the White Sox. You cannot put it on the board. Bring on the Bo Sox. We almost had them. I know, Red Sox fan. Bring on the Angels. Oh yeah, they haven't been to the playoffs in 11 years. The Rangers. Oh, screw those guys. And the Yankees too. We already did it. We beat those bastards. We'll beat the Guardians. Maybe we will. Sorry, Tim. We'll beat the Tigers. Sorry, neighbor Bill. We'll beat the A's so bad it'll make Billy blue. Billy Martin doesn't care about the A's. He cares about the Yankees. What do you want? Let's play ball. Okay. Blue Jays. Let's play ball. Okay. Blue Jays. Let's play ball. Well, that's what we'll do on Friday. But anyway, 10 years ago, I did a video talking about, well, mimicking a famous song. If I can find it, of course, I'm probably going to have to look at the my playlists and all that. Yeah, they've changed a lot of things. All right, let's see. Here we go. Blue Jays cutting videos. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna put it in the description and the playlist. So you'll see the 16 cutter Blue Jay videos that I have technically done. So that's the playlist. Well, that's the watching of the whole song and of course everything else. So yeah, there's a lot of Blue Jays stuff there. Of course, I have to add some more to it. But we'll see what ends up happening. All right, so here we go. Here's the song. And when I did Toronto Blue Jays #1, I was referencing the Houston Oilers song, but I forgot that the Miami Dolphins had that tune first. Thanks to Second and 10 PC Gaming, I did that. All right, here we go. Toronto Blue Jays are the greatest baseball team. We'll go from coast to coast like you never seen. We'll slam the ball over the fence. We'll pitch to our fingers bleed blue. And that is what we'll do. We'll make the Dodgers brew. So we're the Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays #1. Let's do it. We're the Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays #1. Here we go again. Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays #1. Let's go. Let's say it's Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays #1. Hopefully that's what happens. Anyway, thanks for watching this stream or this video, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, thanks again. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.